Hey there, thank you for tuning into Duckbricks and welcome to Ninjago Legacy Lookbacks, where I take a look at the Legacy set and the set that inspired it and compare and rank them against each other. This is part of my ongoing series of a mega review for every single Ninjago wave. For the Legacy sets in particular, I will be comparing them against their original counterparts and trying to see which one is better. So today we have a very fun video taking a look at Zane's Titan Mech Battle. This retailed for $60 in January 2021, and this is Zane's Titan Mech Battle, which also retailed for $60 back in 2015. But there's a catch, because you see, this was not the only thing included in the original set. It also came with a secondary ghost mech, which was much larger and much more formidable as well. Essentially, they've condensed a two-pack into one and put all the parts budget from those two mechs into one mech. So now we'll be taking a look at the comparisons. Was it worth it? Is this a better mech? And what do I think of these Legacy redos? Let's take a look right now at Zane's Titan Mech Battle from 2015 and 2021.
This is Zane's Titan Mech Battle, which retailed for $60 in 2015 for the Possession Season 5. And this is Zane's Titan Mech Battle, which also retailed for $60 in 2021. As you can see, there are some major differences between the two sets. The earlier set came with 5 minifigures, including Gultar, Bansha, Jay, Zane, and Nia's Samurai X outfit from the previous season. Obviously, the elephant in the room is that the older set also included a ghost mech to combat Zane's mech, although both of them are a lot smaller than the much larger Zane's Titan Mech Battle. Or is it even really a battle if it's just the mech versus two ghosts? Maybe just Zane's Titan Mech from 2021. Despite both of them including a so-called Gultar minifigure, this set also includes Soul Archer instead of Bansha, comes with Zane of course, as well as a Golden Jay to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of Ninjago. This set also came with a few side builds, including a grappling hook with a string which was introduced for LEGO Ultra Agents, as well as a smaller cave side build which I unfortunately could not locate at the time of this recording. But let's set aside all the minifigures for now, just so we can take a look just at the builds in and of itself. And actually, I think a good place to start would be just to compare the two Titan mechs against each other and set aside the ghost mech for when we talk a little bit more about value, because it's not really that relevant here. So placing the two mechs side by side, you can immediately see that there is a massive upgrade from one to the other. While they retain a similar design, featuring these blades that are mounted on the backs of the elbows, I guess for some sort of a cutting motion as you swing it back and forth, this one also has the blade mounted that can be swung from the back to the front, so that is a nice added feature. They have significantly increased this model, both in size, complexity, and posability. While this initial model only had legs that were pretty much fixed, absolutely no knee joints whatsoever in this mech. The legs are basically just standard and fixed rectangles. Actually, one of the weakest semblances of knees they've done. Literally just 2 straight rods. This one pioneers a brand new knee technique for LEGO mechs, which I'm really hoping will stick around for future sets. The designer Nick Voss iterated this multiple times until he could get knees which could support the weight of a model like this. And these knees work at a pretty much 90-degree angle. Their secret, 8 pairs of mixel joints. Let's just compare them from the back here. Look at this. As you can see here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mixel joints in the knees. So when you bend them, you get a ton of friction in the knee, and it's even better than having to fit in some sort of a ratchet joint like this one in the knee, because this one actually allows for a smooth range of motion. The other really nice thing about the newer model is that it has all these additional details in the form of recolored honeycombs or beehives. Right here you can see that as I tilt this up, you'll notice that this element that was made to represent a beehive, it was also representing cotton candy, has been recolored in gunmetal gray to represent engine exhausts, which suggests that if this mech cannot fly, then it at least can jump really high with some booster rockets. these were basically absent from the original model. There's really no sign of them being present on the build, and it definitely didn't use it in the show, but it is a really nice feature to include for a set of this size. What's also really neat is that as you bend the legs forward and play with that knee function, it has this sort of armor skirt near the front, which is also mounted on mixel joints, so even if you move the legs really far forwards, you can still have this bend with it and have all the gaps of the armor being covered up. The chest has also received a significant upgrade. Whereas this one basically just used some simple slopes to suggest a chest here and a very simple folding up and down panel right here, this model actually uses a much more complex technique featuring a Nexo tile here, a Nexo large panel here, as well as forming some sort of a face on the front of the mech by combining all these different armor pieces together. It wasn't a part of the show, but it looks really good. The head, however, has stayed relatively the same, and that's one thing that I do really like about it. In the show, you could actually see this head looking around and rotating up and down, which in this newer version you can actually do. In the older version, all you could do was move it up and down, so it is definitely an upgrade going from here to here. Other than that though, the basic shape of the head has stayed the same, which I do appreciate because it was a very iconic part of the model, having these flag pieces form the angular cheekbones of the mech. Instead of just the suggestion of rocket pods here, which I will say was a very unique piece using the palisade brick to signify missile pods on the top of this mech here, this one actually has spring-loaded missiles, which have an added additional play feature to actually launch, but do lose a little bit of the cool factor of having an excellent parts usage of these palisade bricks on the front-mounted missiles. However, this one also does have much steeper shoulder armor, which can be angled back and forth should you need to articulate the arms all the way out, which is a nice detail, as well as fully articulatable, ball-jointed wrists right here for the elbow. You can move it around, and you can even move the hand around in a circular motion to position the blades any way you want. For this one right here, all you have is the 90-degree motion, which is achieved nicely by the hinge piece, but you can't move the hands around at all. They've also tried to look at the shuriken piece here and actually translated it into a full-on spinning saw here, although I do kind of wish that it did retain the other blade for the other hand for the Legacy version. Just having one blade here feels like a little bit of a miss to me, because it would have been really nice to have a secondary blade sticking out of this portion right here. One extra added detail that I feel like only worked when the model was this small was the use of the Samurai X helmet horn pieces on the backs of the neck and on the fronts of the armor here and the arms to really showcase some sort of a technical detail. That's one feature of this mech that I really did like. Unfortunately, you can't really do that at this size, so they had to swap it out for just some sticker detail, but they did still retain the gold ingot elements to kind of represent the curved elements here, featuring strips of gold plating. All in all, I think that it's very, very clear that the newer mech is a substantial improvement over the older one. Obviously, you've got all of the parts for the set being dedicated to just building up this massive mech, which really pays off in the end. But the question really does now boil down to, was it worth paying $60 for a single mech of this size, or was it better off paying, or would you have been better off paying $60 for a similar mech? It's obviously a lot more simple than this, but it gets the point across, combined with a much more impressive, larger opponent mech to combat. Just a few things I do want to note in the construction of the larger mech. It was meant to evoke the Samurai X mech from the original 2012 line. It's almost like a Legacy set itself, although obviously it does do a lot of different things in terms of the color scheme and the amount of arms. I think that this one got a lot of use out of the CCBS elements here. Thankfully, when CCBS was still in production, you could use them to really quickly build up arms without taking up too much pieces, which this one does use to great extent. I really do like the four-armed aspect of this mech, and arguably this was the cooler part of the set, especially when compared to the much smaller Zane mech. This one unfortunately also does not feature knees. The legs are pretty much just solid and straight, so you can't really get this into really cool poses, but it definitely is a formidable opponent against the Zane Titan mech, and it served for some excellent battles in the show when they, well, possessed the Samurai X mech and turned it into this. It also even features a lot of these same parts that the Samurai X mech used, right down to the railings on the shoulders to really evoke the similar look. And so when it boils down to it, this set was $60 and came with 5 minifigures. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This set is $60 and comes with 4 minifigures. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And while this mech is much, much better than this one, I will have to say, I do feel like I'm getting a little more bang for my buck by spending $60 on this mech in 2015, which came with 2 solid mechs to combat each other, rather than just spending $60 on an admittedly really fantastic mech in 2021. Now, if this was $50, then maybe I could probably see it. I'd still say maybe it would have been nice to get some sort of a larger force from the opposition, but honestly, I would have been very happy paying, say, $100 for a mech battle. Having a mech of this size combat another mech of an equal size or maybe a little bit smaller would have been the most optimal solution here. I know that Legacy doesn't like to focus on villain sets too much, but it does feel like a bit of a shame of having the coolest mech from the Ghost lineup with 4 arms, having a very formidable structure, being the highlight of this 2-pack set, essentially being relegated to just 2 minifigures on the opposing side, and all of the budget that was part of this set going into just 1 larger mech. Is this mech better than either of these 2 mechs? Oh, by far, easily. But is the value I'm getting from this mech better than the value I would get play-wise from 2 equally sized mechs to combat each other? I don't know about that one. So in terms of set quality, I'm going to give this one a 9 out of 10. It is a fantastic set. The only thing dragging it down is that there could have been a few more minifigures included. Would have liked to see at least 1 more minifigure, maybe 1 more different ghost or another ninja, but it's not too bad, and I can't complain at all about the mech because the mech is very, very high quality. But then when we get to the value, honestly, if this was a standalone set, and I feel like this is maybe a little bit unfair to it, but if this just came out, it was its own thing, completely agnostic of the previous set, I would probably be a lot happier with the $60 price tag. But now when I compare it to this having a $60 price tag and coming with 2 mechs, this having a $60 price tag and coming with 1, I can't help but feel like value has been a little bit diminished from the older set to the newer set. So I'm going to have to rank the value of this one a little bit lower on the list. Gonna be a 6 out of 10 to be honest. I really do feel like either they could have made this $50, taken away some pieces of the mech, but just called it good at $50 for a single mech, or if you're gonna make it $60, reduce this a little bit and try to include some opposition as well, because I really do feel like the strength of this set was not Zane's mech, but it actually was the Ghost mech, which was far more formidable and obviously a bit of a cooler design as a villain mech than just Zane's mech alone. Is this a good mech? Absolutely. Is this a great price set and an awesome battle pack? Most certainly. So I do feel like paying $60 for this is a little bit more justified than paying $60 for this. But that's just what I think. Obviously, let me know what you guys think of this down in the comments, but I think it's time to move on to our next set.
So definitely stay tuned for that next time, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye bye for now.